I've recently been thinking, the galaxy is a vast place with hundreds of species everywhere. I don't like that. It would be much better if everybody lived in the same place, the same building. No one has to commute for light years. Let's say some sort of ever-expanding structure, like some sort of sprawling complex. Introducing the frame world. Now, this beast of a habitat is sitting on top of a black hole for no particular reason that will become relevant later. But unlike your normal habitat, we can expand this one forever. Now, to answer your very obvious question when it comes to this, yes, this is from Gigastructures. It recently got updated to 4.12, and it is why we are attempting this. Now, forcing everybody to resettle may be a little bit of a challenge, as they may get a little bit uppity, which is exactly why we're going to assimilate them into our glorious machine empire. So what are the main challenges here, though? We're going to need an endless supply of alloys to expand our frame, to get the fleets to get the pops that we need. But that's, of course, where art forges come in, which is very, very helpful. Of course, we're not done until everybody is moved onto the frame. So I've put together a crack species to pull this off. These robots have been specifically designed to grow very fast and get us the result that we need. And that result being all empires on the map inside of our frame world. Building an empire can be challenging, but have you ever considered starting your own megacorporation, building everything from scratch, generate a giant industrial pipeline of vertically integrated excellence? Then maybe Prosperous Universe is something for you. Prosperous Universe is a player-driven MMO that is all about realism and persistence. You are the CEO of your own mega corporation in space with the ability to build anything available in the game. All resources, materials, and end products are mined and produced by the player base, which means that you can find your own niche and corner the market. Form alliances, wage wars, delve into politics, all whilst looking for that profit is what Prosperous Universe is all about. All of this is visualized in a completely customizable interface called Apex, allowing you to tailor the game to your needs. And on top of that, it's completely played in the browser, so no need to download some sort of client. So check out Prosperous Universe today. If you use the link in the description below and register, you'll get 20% off on your first purchase. However, you can play for free as long as you like before pulling that trigger. Starting off with a nice mix of technology, research is always good, bigger fleets and good defense. And of course, everybody's gonna hate us, so we may as well. Pretty solid cartwheel start here. It's a shame that it only has 3 entry points, and it's a good potential for exploring. And we pull Zroni, which is less than great. We're robots, so we can't really use Ro or any of the psionics around it. We can get a pretty good artifact out of this, a good relic that will allow us to stabilize our empire, because this frame world is gonna be hella unstable. Plus, this Rosro itself, we can sell it on the market, which we can use to, well, stabilize our economy when we need to. Is it the best? No. Is it the worst? Also no. Then, of course, it's time for our first tradition, which is, of course, discovery. We want to get as much value from systems as possible, which means we need to explore everything as fast as we can, whilst also having the highest chance of pulling more anomalies. Plus, map the stars, probably one of the best edicts in the early game when it comes to this, and territory-wise, I don't really care, but getting anomalies close to home, especially when we're building up our economy, I do care about. So yes, tradition, awesome. On top of that, we get Chart the Unknown as an agenda, which is going to put our exploration into an even higher gear. Now, of course, we want to explore because anomalies, but we're also looking for other empires, and most importantly, primitives, as they are going to be an easy way to expand our frame population at an early stage within the game. Now, how do we expand our frame, you ask, ASpec? Well, we can fabricate station modules, which can get more expensive every time we do it. We can also spend 400 influence if you get the logistics program online, and we can get some in-between upgrades for the actual frame, which can actually boost things quite significantly. Or we could harvest asteroids using our construction ship. Now, this is a lot cheaper. It just takes time and will allow us to grow really quickly in terms of size within our frame. It does mean that we're going to need to manually harvest the entire galaxy, which is going to be incredibly painful. Of course, we need to be super careful that we're not too eager with this because, well, otherwise we may undermine our arc furnace ambitions, which is something that we obviously cannot do because, well, we need those alloys. On the other hand, it's a good way to balance things because we just don't want to spend that many alloys at the moment because we want to pump up our fleets in order to conquer some aliens, to fill up our Pokedex, our frame. Whilst all of this is going on, my council seems to be evening out nicely. Of course, I'm a hive mind, which means my council works a little bit differently from the average bear, but still, you know, it looks quite nicely, and on top of that, they're going to be immortal, which means they'll hit level 10 sooner rather than later. Pro tip in the meantime, if you ever see this option, always go with a percentage. Flat materials maybe look really nice at the start of the game, but especially if your leader is immortal, like we are in this particular case, always go for a percentage. Percentages can get real crazy real quickly, so just go for them. Never on flat numbers. Flat numbers bad. As we are a frame world, we are not allowed to get any colonies. However, we can get planetary outposts fairly cheap. With every single added planetary outpost, we get additional bonuses to the frame, which kind of sort of emulates having an actual world, giving us some growth and some bonus resources back. The thing is, pop growth when you are on the frame is not really all that great because you can get like 500%, 600, 700% pop growth bonuses on your robots, which is problematic, especially if you don't have enough space on your frame and housing starts to become a problem. This is probably something we'll run into later, but yeah, I'm going to have to kind of change my robots and start turning off population growth very soon at this rate. Now, sometimes you can strike pay dirt. You encounter 5 asteroids into a system, and they can be mined for additional districts on the frame, which is exactly what I like to see. Now, we haven't found anybody just yet, but I feel that we're on the cusp because we've gotten those additional districts now. So now we just need to find someone to fill those districts with. 18 years into the game, and we may actually have our very first customer. There are several science ships on the map, and it's time to make first contact. But before we do that, there's a nice little distraction here. Primitives. There's only 2 of them. They apparently have nuked themselves into oblivion, but then again, pops are pops. And whilst the harvest is going on over there, it's first contact time. It looks like it's actually a proper empire and none of that hive-minded garbage. And immediately we'll be going in for second contact. Looks like they're ruthless capitalists, which means we'll just need to ruthlessly integrate them into our empire.
We've constructed.
Quickly moving forward to 30 years in, Dyson swarms are now a thing, and we just have to select a nice star system for it and get that somewhat pseudo-infinite energy. But in the meantime, though, it's time for that very first war because the frame thirsts for new pops. And the war ends early because they have been subjugated by somebody else, which is fine. It just means we just need to go straight into the next war, and guess we'll just add the Gilgalian coalition to the mix. First, we need a nice little cozy little orbital bombardment to soften them up, followed by a nice little invasion, and presto, we got 40 new pops to be added to the frame. And whilst all of that stuff is going on, we just stumbled on the most important early tech game, arc furnaces. We're going to need these in order to keep alloys rolling and upgrading the frame pretty much constantly in order to, well, keep space for all these pops. And I do mean that we're going to need a lot of districts because we will run out of space once we've assimilated several empires worth of said pops. So having alloys is going to allow us to keep up with demand as well as living space. And with all of that, the pops are automatically relocated to their new home, the glorious frame. Now, immediately, there are some obvious issues, space issues, but we've prepared for this. That's why we have all the alloys, and that's why we've been harvesting all the asteroids and those 2 additional arc furnaces that are being built now in parallel so that we can have enough housing for all of these pops. It's kind of like real life echoing the video game right now, where there is housing issues out there, but also in here. Reality and virtuality? It rhymes. Who knew? Meanwhile, we're going to need to take a better look at the frame, because at first glance, just having a building in space that's like a larger habitat is not going to be all that useful. Instead, the creators of Gigastructures have added additional districts that you can unlock through gameplay. In this particular case, the refinery districts, which will allow us to get access to strategic resources. So we've got our gas, we've got our motes, we've got our crystals. They're all coming in, they're all being generated locally. Later on, we'll have things like Unity, as well as policing districts and all of that jazz. But basically, this bar over here will get bigger and bigger and bigger as we will get more stuff available, which is kind of cool. Basically, we'll be able to generate any resource that we ever need on the frame. Why would you go anywhere else? Why would you go to planets where you can just get everything on the frame? Like, seriously, why I don't understand why these pops are even out there on their silly little planets when they can be in a paradisiacal space that has no living space available right now. But, you know, you get the idea. We can just do everything here. Why go anywhere else? Now, I want to try something fun this time around. I want to do a little bit of a play, and that involves the galactic community. We are assimilators, and we can have total war, but we can join the galactic community in such a way that we can actually become emperor or custodian, or even just the head of the council. Which means that we can be the kind of empire that declares other empires a crisis if we want. Which means that everybody will jump them. Which means that we can take their worlds, assimilate the pops, and just run home with all of their stuff. It's foolproof. But before we even get to that, we still need to go and harvest even more asteroids, because again, we got thousands of pops that we're going to need to squeeze onto this thing, and even before we can start thinking about being the Senate at some sort of arbitrary time in the future. Still something to slowly work towards, because this playthrough is going to take a couple 100 years. Meanwhile, our exploration fleets have managed to find some shrouded worlds, which means that we have some more asteroids to harvest. I'm sure they don't mind, but this means that we just have more space to go into the next war. These guys are pathetic anyway, and poof, that's the first empire completely assimilated into the frame. Nice. Now, on top of this, we also need to start building our hyper relay networks. This is going to be critical, as we will need to be reinforcing our fleets constantly from the frame. I can just build my build yards and my shipyards pretty much anywhere where I like, but I kind of like to have it nice and centralized in some way. And because of that, I don't really want my ships to be slow boating all the way across the galaxy. Meanwhile, the frame world is growing quite nicely. We now have 74 capacity on this thing, and we're not slowing down. Plus, the whole territorial expansion is going quite nice. The problem is we have an alliance on the left. They're a little bit busy with the Priki, and Yatsun manufacturing on the right seems to be the more interesting choice right now. We should probably take them out of their misery and claim probably a fifth of the galaxy's pops. Sadly, they do have a defensive pact, so I may need to temporarily look somewhere else. Meanwhile, the government of the galaxy want to ban slavery, or at least someone is trying to pass the Emancipation Act without too much luck, and for some reason the Space Balkans are here as well, because of course they are. It's Stellaris after all. Space Balkans aside, however, as part of putting the entire galaxy into our frame world, we of course need to get cybernetic traditions. Why? Because it's fun. That's why. Plus we get to assimilate everything, including hive minds if we find them. Because, let's be honest here, if these pops are not going to be assimilated, they're just going to riot on the frame, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems, and I don't want to blow up the frame because it's where I keep all of my stuff. Still though, in the meantime, war and assimilation things doing quite nicely. 450 pops on the station is very nice. But of course, we're going to be running into population issues yet again, which means that we're going to need to be building more of these here enforcer districts, which could get painful because the cost of these districts is going to go up, or at least the size of the frame modules is going to go up. So that's problematic. Meanwhile, Mercedes Romeo decides to join us. For those of you who are not aware, Mercedes Romeo is a reference to some of the very first streams that were made for this game back when... Was it back when it was still Wiz? Or was it even earlier than that with Henrik Farias? I cannot remember. However, Mercedes Romeo is a very, very old Stellaris meme. And I can only appreciate that sort of stuff. Into the Empire you come, Mercedes Romeo. There's even a song and a soundtrack named after you, so how could we not take you in? And whilst Mercedes is nicely settling in, it's time for yet another war. The problem is that the galactic government has basically enacted natural defenders, which means that I need to get myself a mercenary corporation on my side whenever I'm at war, otherwise I'm going to get sanctioned, which is annoying, but not the end of the world, because who cares about the galactic government, except for me trying to actually become the leader of it so I can start denouncing people. In the meantime, though, going for this war is going to be pretty helpful to get more pops on the frame, because that's what we're all about. So, conquering that empire may have been a mistake, and I'm absolutely terrified. 5 additional planets are to be added to the fray, and I'm concerned I may have messed up here, as we're essentially squeezing an additional 400 pops on this thing, and that may be a little bit too much, and it's going to take some time to stabilize. Thankfully, we have the crystal, which is kind of useful. That Zero stuff does come in sometimes very usefully. But we're going to need to be harvesting a lot of asteroids to get this place stable. Otherwise, we're going to have some uprisings on our hand. In order to deal with all these pops and the whole being upset about having to leave their planets, we're going to need to start building Yggdrasils. Now, for those of you who are not aware, we're playing with Gigastructural Engineering. The Yggdrasil complex basically allows us to move all of our food generation off of the frame to gas giants. Essentially, we're farming gas giants for food. So that's going to help as we're wanting to unload production locally and change those districts to something more useful. And removing all food is going to be great. Plus, we're going to get heavy industry, which means that we're going to get additional fabricator jobs, which is going to be helpful when it comes to combating unemployment. Plus, once again, all of these pops will want to live somewhere. Right now, it's just a tent encampment somewhere on docking ring 5 or something along those lines, as 4 trillion pops are trying to get in. It's kind of awkward like that, and we're going to be running into stability issues before we do anything else. It's going to take a hot minute, however, as we just managed to get the wonders of cybernetics completely done, which means we get to aggregate our mind into something new. Yeah, a new type of empire, which is kind of cool. Not going to do it, though, because we want to keep our bonuses as much as possible. But still, it's a really cool feature that you can specialize your empire like this in a sort of aggregation sort of thing. On the other hand, we got the Rubricator going on. The Grand Dragon just woke up, but sadly it fell face first into a giant load of whatever this is. Still, though, we managed to kill it quite quickly, so we now have the Rubricator, which doesn't really matter because we will never use it, because we're too busy using the amazing Gironi crystal to keep our stability up and running, which is really, really nice. On the other hand, the galaxy does not really like us all that much, which means we don't have too many openings right now, which is seriously annoying. And we are playing Gigastructural Engineering, which means you'll probably have got a couple of questions right now, as in, ASpec, what kind of Gigastructures are you actually running? How about all of them? I don't have access yet to the really, really crazy stuff, but we're starting to get there. We got Dyson Swarms, we got Arc Furnaces, we got Yggdrasils, and basically everything else, and it's going quite swell, I would like to say here. Like, Gigastructures is all about getting out of control as fast as possible, and getting those first structures up and running may be a little bit painful, but once you have them, it's just snowballing from there onwards. And basically every single system within my empire has some sort of megastructure in it, or is getting queued up to have another megastructure in it. The weird thing however, is that I don't have gateways at all. And I don't know what's happened, but gateways as a technology is simply not spawning, which is incredibly weird. With the cybernetics in mind, however, we do get a bunch of bonuses that basically allow us to do more efficient cybernetics, which is great because we're going to need to install a whole bunch of stuff on every single one of our pops that is just simply going to reduce the need of housing. Because housing is our biggest bottleneck, and it's causing all sorts of stability issues, crime issues, etc. So we're going to need to essentially fold up as many pops as we can and start amputating limbs and that sort of thing, because they're taking too much space up on the frame. I cannot harvest asteroids enough at this moment in time, so we're going to need to do some more creative snipping here in places. Long story short, every single pop on the frame is going to get genetically engineered, and then on top of that, cybernetically engineered. Now, we're only 20 minutes into this video, and it may seem to go pretty smoothly. Like, what year is it? 2255, 2260? No, it is 2388. I've skipped quite a lot of stuff because, let's be honest here, I got stuck for quite some time trying to get rid of Yatsun, but they've decided to set up this giant-ass federation, which is somewhat problematic because I just don't have the firepower yet to deal with them. So that's going to take a hot second to crack that nut, but in the meantime, it just means that more gigastructures are to be built, more traditions are to be done, more economies to be upscaled, whilst at the same time also getting more content on the frame. We're looking at almost 1,000 pops at this moment, and then of course Satana spawns in the middle of my empire. And for those of you who are not familiar, Satana is just a random endgame crisis that will just spawn, kill off any fallen empires that are around, and then start demanding things from you. Essentially, she's looking to lobotomize everybody in the galaxy, and in all honesty, that is my job, to put everybody onto the frame and keep them as bored as possible, or turn into cybernetic excellence, but it's a whole different story. The long and short of it is that I'm going to need to start raiding her convoys and keep things under the LD in order to make sure that she thinks that I'm her friend, and just keep it going. I'm just making sure that she doesn't do anything naughty, because she can ruin your stuff quite quickly with her swarms, which is basically just nanotech on steroids, as you can see, which they've already done to Yatsun Manufacturing, who did not want to yield, and now there is nanostorms everywhere. Hope you enjoyed that, Yatsun. I'm looking forward to add your distinguishedness to our own. And after messing around with Satana since absolutely forever, taking her convoys, finding her stuff, trying to give lip service to her, I'm ready to kill her, and of course it bugs out, and now she's stuck in the middle of my empire, and I'm going to sadly need to hard kill her. Otherwise, she is going to cause so many problems, and she'll just win. Satana will win, and that will be the end of the game. So I'm going to need to hard kill her through some commands, which I'm not proud of, but she broke. So I get the other option here of just killing her for console commands, because I kind of have to in this case. Otherwise, she will win without me having any sort of opportunity to do anything about it. Remember at the start of this campaign where I was saying that there was a black hole underneath my frame world that had no reason whatsoever to be there? Well, it does, because you can turn it into an integrated Penrose Sphere. Now, what is a Penrose Sphere? Glad you asked. Basically, you take a black hole, you put a perfect mirror around it, and then introduce a piece of light. Yes, a light particle goes inside, and because of the gravity around the black hole, it will just speed up infinitely, and basically you'll be able to generate energy off of the black hole infinitely. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to build a Penrose Sphere around this thing, and it's going to be awesome. Later on, we'll probably be able to get a lifter as well, as we're going to be able to suck minerals out of that black hole, because apparently that's a thing. And with these upgrades, we will also get more new districts on our frame world, which means more capacity, which means that we can put more pops on this thing. And my lord, we're already having so many visitors here. With that said, we cannot keep up with assimilating. We've been assimilating basically everything that we could find with relative ease, because our fleet is just ridiculous at this point in time. It's going to probably get more ridiculous, but it does the job. We have massive amounts of overcrowding and instability, and I can likely not keep up with the pace that I'm going. I cannot really dump the extra pops onto another planet, because as a frame world holder, I am not allowed. So I cannot really hold them somewhere else, which is annoying. Unless... I swear, the Synaptic Lathe is the most broken-ass thing that Paradox has ever added to the game, and I've been playing this game for 7 years, and that should be saying something, but it is a good way to get rid of my overflow of pops at this moment in time. Just march it onto the lathe, get the science, and I win. And that's essentially what's going to happen here. I'm going to build the lathe by going down the Cosmo Nemesis side of things, and basically just conquer the galaxy that way, and whilst at the same time upgrading my frame, because in the end everybody's going to live in the frame, so it's not everybody that I'm going to take with me is going to be alive to live on said frame, if that makes any sense. Long story short, you're going to go and get fridged for science. And with that in mind, we're on a roll, we can keep invading. Now we're not constrained by putting pops on the frame all the time, so we can just keep on going. This sounds awesome. Let's just keep on trucking. Like, it's the 24th century. Satana is dead. We don't have an endgame crisis to deal with. This will be over in a jiffy.
One eternity later.
1.1 million Diplo Power. A behemoth planet craft. 350 years of absolute pain and pushing back a federation. And for some reason, I need consumer goods. There's 2,700 pops on the frame, there's maximum corruption, almost 1,000 housing deficit, and yet somehow there's 80 stability. It's been 100 years. We've skipped forward by quite some margin, and it's utter insanity. The Diplo Power basically stems from the insane amount of fleets that we have. We got Gigastructures basically everywhere. We got this hyperstructural assembly yard that boosts our fleet power to 9,999. It is just absolutely insane, and I love everything about it. But the stupid thing is, I still cannot push him back. Like, sure, I can go into the Senate and become the Senate, but yeah, it's a challenge to say the least. We've also managed to finish our tradition trees, and we're just going to top it all off with Voidborn, because have you seen where we live? Habitability increasing in our places and getting additional districts? Sure, let's go with that. I don't know whether or not it applies onto the frame, but thematically it seems to be pretty appropriate. In the meantime, I've got all this territory that I have won over this last 100 years, and as soon as any sort of space is claimed by me, I have to send in the construction ships to harvest every single asteroid in sight to get more modules for the frame, because I am not going to pay 60,000 alloys just to get one additional district slot due to the cost modifier. Yes, that's the kind of territory that we're in right now. Anyway, it means that I have had to manually click every single asteroid in the galaxy. LONE, if you're watching this, that's the developer of one of the developers of Gigastructure, or anybody from the Gigastructure team for that matter, please have an automated harvest asteroids feature for frame worlds, because this is just beyond painful. Essentially, at this point, I have effectively conquered the entire galaxy, bar one federation that stands between me and total dominion. So I have a funny idea. Can I break their federation by declaring one of their members as a crisis? Because I am, in fact, the Senate. I've got infinite Diplo power, so we may as well. Then this is going well. Like, we can quite easily break this. That's not an issue. And it's time to declare that one the crisis. And oh no, they've all left the galactic community and joined in on the fight, because for some reason the Federation will join the battle automatically if one of their members is declared a crisis. Anyway, we're doing the end war now. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. After countless battles, after countless fights, after countless maneuvers, it's just me and the Yildar as the last one standing. And I've sent them an invitation to join the frame, and obviously they've slapped that down because they don't know something good when they see it. Regardless, it's been quite a fight, and, well, let's put it this way, we're gonna go and stomp them. Also, does anybody know where gateways are? Like, I have not been seeing gateways. It's the year, what year is it? It is the year, I don't even know. It is well into the 2600s. Where are my gateways? And it's finally done. I just need to move 36 worlds worth of pops onto the frame, and that will almost be it, because the final numbers will look something like this. 4,500 plus pops, 600 more in the lathe, which is basically 5k pops in total. Over 100,000 energy a month, 14k in minerals, 5k food, 6k alloys, and for some reason, 76 consumer goods. The frame has almost 300 segments, and it's nice and snug in here because a third of the population lives on the streets. But hey, at least they managed to get microwaves from those 76 consumer goods. And the entire galaxy is under my glorious control. It has been a while. And you thought it was over. No, we're not done yet. We've got something really important to do. The entire galaxy now lives on the frame, effectively. And now it's just time to make it like a tree and get the fuck out of here. It's time for the Horizon Needle, baby. Let's go. We're going to embark the entire galaxy in one go. And we have won the game. And there it is. A totally empty galaxy. With just, of course, the remnants of my empire. It took me about 11, 12 hours to do this, and I'm in utter pain. Like, sanity has been slipping for quite some time at this point already. But I want to thank you all for hanging in there. This video is like, what, just over 30 minutes long? You have no idea how much cutting down I had to do. Let's take a quick look at our timeline here. Yeah, that's about 8.45 minutes of footage. That's not even half the footage that I got. It's utter insanity. Irregardless, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, feel free to drop the video a like. At least if you got this far, you may as well. But until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other, and thank you to both Prosperous Universe for making this video possible, and you, my dear patrons. If you want to get involved, feel free to follow the link down below. Like I said, until next time, let's do it again sometime. But for the love of God, not into the 2600s again.